And if you think about it, really one of the things that we experience as real estate agents is that we are all viewed as the same, and that we really have kind of been the same for decades. There's a lot that agents do that are very similar in nature. Obviously, there are agents out there that are really going above and beyond and thinking outside of the box and using the best of technology that's available and applying it in a real estate capacity to really benefit their clients. But I'll tell you that with what we've been able to accomplish on our real estate team, it is costly, the learning curve is steep, and it has been working fantastically well for us. But a single agent can't do what we do. They don't have the manpower. There's just not enough time in the day for them to replicate our output, our results. But there are a lot of things that we've done that we've been ahead of the curve on that have really helped our clients. But if you kind of just take a step back for a moment, you think about sales for, well, let me just say this first. There was a survey that was done. It's a really interesting survey. They surveyed 50,000 people. And the purpose of the survey was to better understand how people felt about people that are in sales. So one of the major questions was, if you could only think of one word to associate with sales, what would it be? So just take a minute if you're listening and think about that. What is the one word that you would use in describing somebody in sales? What adjective? 20 out of the 25 words that came up most often were negative. The number one word most used was pushy. Think of Kurt Russell in Cadillac Man, or Boiler Room, or Glengarry Glen Ross, or even Wolf of Wall Street. There's so many movies out there that kind of depict that typical salesperson. In fact, if they took that study a bit further and they said, tell me what this person looks like, and the overwhelming majority of people said that it was a man in like a checkered blazer selling a used car. So we have this, since the beginning of time, we have been subjected to something called information asymmetry, which is basically when one party in a transaction has more information about the product or service than the other party, which is why there are really only a few words that we remember from Latin, and one of them is caveat emptor, which is buyer beware. But sales have evolved because access to information has evolved. From a real estate perspective, you used to had to go to a real estate agent because they were the gatekeepers of the information. They were the only ones that had MLS access. They used to carry around in this big binder. The MLS just wasn't publicly available like it is now. But thanks to the internet and social media, we've transitioned from information asymmetry to something called information parity, which is when both parties in a transaction have equal access to information about the product or service in question. And consumers can tap into, endless amounts of information online. They can read reviews, see what others have to say about it, so on and so forth. And so one of the many challenges that this creates is another thing called cognitive overload, which is basically what happens when you're presented with more information, choices, or responsibilities than you can reasonably be expected to process. And so, you think about, we've got an agent on the team that was a nurse that taught nursing school for 37 years. And, we were just talking about this kind of this paradigm shift from information asymmetry to information parity, where we now, all of us have access to information. And so she was saying, it's really funny in the medical community, as an example, it used to be that when people would go and do their own online research and then bring in multiple printouts and say, hey, I've done my own research. Here are my systems. I think this is the solution. When that first started happening, doctors were appalled. It soiled their white jacket. Whereas now they even have training classes to deal with the information that the consumers believe to be accurate. And they do that by making sure that the information they are collecting is reasonable. In other words, we're not the gatekeeper of information anymore. We are the curator of information. The ability to add clarity to the process by seeing things in a fresh light and by helping people identify problems they didn't realize they had in the first place. So in order to do that effectively, you have to work with an expert. Our ability to use our expertise to guide a customer to the best solution for his or her particular need and to flush out problems they didn't even know existed, identify them and provide a solution before it becomes a problem. These are all incredibly important, and one of the big things that separate the amateurs from the professionals. Our ability to synthesize information for our clients' benefit and improvise or pivot when things don't go perfectly according to plan. And part of the challenge is our industry is very easy to break into. A few $100, a week of online courses, a test, and you're in. You're a practicing real estate professional. And as a result, agents are really kind of pushing the envelope with regard to what they say or what they do or how they behave to try and earn your business. Basically 20% of everybody with a real estate license got it in the past 12 months. I was talking with a very well-known closing attorney this week over lunch and just about this very thing and the amount of things that he sees agents not even get wrong, but get away with. If he did even a fraction of that, he'd be disbarred. So for the challenge for you as a listener, given this, the consumer is, how do you know you're working with an expert? How do you know you're going to be taken care of and not treated like just another number the agent gets to brag about at the end of the year in some sort of self-serving Facebook post about how awesome they are as a real estate agent. One way of doing that is to interview people, compare them to someone else of seemingly equal or hopefully better quality. If you don't know somebody that is in real estate or don't know somebody that knows somebody in real estate, I would be shocked, because the reality is Charleston, and I haven't verified this for this year, but at least as of last year, we were the second most saturated real estate market in the country. There are a lot of folks here with a real estate license. But when you look at the sales that are being done, and just the fact that the vast majority of sales are done by 10% of the agent population, and then it gets really, the scales really tip in one favor when you look at the top 5%. I've been in the top 1% since 2009. I'm not saying that to brag, but I am saying that I bring a world of experience and perspective to the process, to the market. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about on this program is helping you understand how agents behave, how they act, what they say, what they do. Is it genuine, or is it just something that they're going to say or do in order to get you to sign on the bottom line, on the dotted line, and just hope that it results in a sale. Hope they can kind of just do the status quo and hope that that's enough. And so what I want to do after we take a break is I want to identify some of these problems that you probably didn't know that you had or are going to have when you hire a real estate agent. I want you to be able to look out for these kinds of things. I want you to avoid them if at all possible. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. Remember, if you want to reach out to me, you want to have a conversation about your specific situation, whether it's just a simple question or you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. Feel free to give me a call. My number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. You can send an email to brian@brianbeattyteam.com or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.